Hello friends, welcome back. Today is day 4 of our JFrog Artifactory series. In this video, we are going to see how to configure Maven to download dependencies from JFrog Artifactory instead of using external public repositories like Maven Central. Well, why do we need this? In the earlier sessions, we saw if the Artifactory is not configured, Maven will always download dependencies directly from central repository, that is Maven Central. But once your company sets up JFrog Artifactory inside your internal network, you don't want your build servers going to the internet every time. Instead, you want Maven to download everything from the Artifactory virtual repository. This gives you faster builds, better security, control over which artifacts are allowed, no internet dependency. So today we will see how to configure this Maven. Well, this is my SH students Spring Boot application. Inside this project, we have pom.xml file and our source code. If we open pom.xml file, we will see all the dependencies are mentioned here, which are required to build this application. Whenever we run a build command, these dependencies get downloaded automatically. Not just these dependencies, also the plugins like Jacoco Maven plugin, Spring Boot Maven plugin, etc. and other Maven plugins. All of these by default come from the Maven Central public repository. How do we know this? Here in the Maven Apache Super POM page, we can see these repositories and plugin repositories both point to Maven Central. This is the Maven Central URL, which means all the dependencies and plugins come from these unless we override it. Now let's override Maven Central and use our JFrog virtual repo. Now to make Maven download dependencies from our JFrog Artifactory virtual repository instead of the public Maven Central repo, we have to override the default Maven URLs. By default, Maven uses this URL, which is the Maven Central URL. And this appears in both repositories for dependencies and plugin repositories for plugins. So we need to override both. And this override can be done in two ways. Either we can override in the pom.xml file or inside Maven's global settings.xml. But in real projects, especially on the build server, we override it in settings.xml because then the configuration automatically applies to all projects on that server. So open your Maven settings.xml file. For me, the location is etools apache maven then conf settings.xml. You might also find it under your user directory like c users then .m2 settings.xml. Either location works. Now open your settings.xml file. Now go to Google and search for Artifactory Maven repository and open this link. Here connect your Maven client to Artifactory. So JFrog provides a ready-made profile section here. Just copy and paste. This profile section just before the closing tag of profiles here. Remove this. Now inside the profile configuration, you will notice that we have two main sections. One is repositories. This is for downloading normal Maven dependencies. The another one is plugin repositories. This is for downloading Maven plugins like Spring Boot plugin, Jacoco plugin, etc. Both work the same way, but they must be configured separately. So inside repositories, we have two repository entries. One is for release repo and another one is for snapshot repo. Release repository, this is where Maven looks for stable release versions like 1.0.0 and so on. And since release repositories should not contain snapshots, here this configuration setting disables snapshots. And this snapshot repo, this is where Maven looks for snapshot versions like 0.0.1-snapshot, etc. The same way for plugin repository also, we have plugin release repo and plugin snapshot repo. Well, this ensures your build clearly knows For stable version, go for release repo, and for snapshot versions, go to snapshot repo. Now the question is, where do we put our JFrog URLs? So wherever you see this release repo URL, you should replace this with your Maven virtual release repo. Similarly, wherever this snapshot URL, replace snapshot repo with your Maven virtual snapshot repo. The same logic applies to plugin repositories also. Under plugin repositories, one plugin release repo and one plugin snapshot repo. These also need your virtual release and virtual snapshot URLs. We will replace this plugin snapshot repo URL with our Maven virtual snapshot repo URL and this plugin release repo URL with our Maven virtual release repo URL. Well, this ensures all dependencies, all plugins are downloaded from your internal JFrog virtual repo, not Maven Central. And we can say dependencies use repositories and the plugins use plugin repositories, but both must point to your virtual release and snapshot repos. Now let's log into Artifactory and fetch the URLs for both Maven release and the Maven snapshot virtual repositories. So go to Artifactory, under platform, Artifactory, artifacts. Here you will see all the repositories we created earlier. In the previous videos, we saw how to create virtual repositories by aggregating one local snapshot repo plus one remote repo, and the same way for virtual release repo, one release repo and one remote repo. Now click on virtual release repository and on the right side you will see the URL. Copy this URL and paste it inside your settings.xml. Here for release repo, replace this URL and under plugin release repo as well. Remove it and paste it. Then replace the placeholder names with your actual virtual Maven release repo. Copy the release repo name and here paste it. The same for plugin release repo name as well. Next, do the same for virtual snapshot repository also. Go to JFrog, select the snapshot repo, copy the virtual repository snapshot URL and paste it under snapshot URL. The same way for plugin snapshot repo URL as well. Copy the repo name and replace here under plugin snapshot repo name also for snapshot repo name and save it. Perfect. Before proceeding, one more important step. From the JFrog Artifactory documentation, copy the active profile section. From here, copy this active profile section and paste it under settings.xml here. Now, why do we need active profile section? Because just adding a profile block is not enough. Maven will only use this profile if we explicitly activate it. So the active profiles block tells Maven, hey, always use the Artifactory profile for all builds on this machine. This makes sure that every time Maven runs, it automatically pulls dependencies and plugins from JFrog Artifactory instead of external Maven Central repo. Now our settings.xml file is fully updated and ready to use. And now go to your .m2 repository location on your system and delete the existing repository folder. Maven uses cached artifacts from .m2, so removing them ensures it will download everything fresh. I have already deleted mine. Now go to your application directory and build the application. So here just run mvn clean install -d skip test is equal to true. So this command will first clean the target directory and then start the build, downloading all the required artifacts directly from the virtual repository in JFrog Artifactory instead of Maven Central, and this -d skip test is equal to true is used to skip test execution like Jacoco test to speed up the build. Hit enter. So there is one error coming. It is stating profiles tag name / settings. Maybe some tag is missing. Go here. Okay, here add the /profiles tag as well. Save it and run the command again. So it may take some time since it's downloading dependencies from scratch. Watch carefully. You will notice that all artifacts are now being downloaded from the virtual repo. Now the build is successful and we can go ahead and validate the target folder. Here inside target folder, our snapshot.jar being created. Next, let's perform one more task, uploading a release version to release local repository in JFrog Artifactory. For that, in your pom.xml file, close this, minimize this. Here in the pom.xml file, change the version to release version. So here the version is snapshot, just let's change it to release version. Save the file. Now run the command mvn deploy. So this command will build the project again, generate the release jar under the target folder, and then try to deploy the release artifacts to Artifactory. But here you will notice it will throw an error. Let me show you. We can see here under the target folder release.jar being created, but it got failed because we haven't added the distribution management section for the release local repository in the pom.xml yet. Now go to JFrog Artifactory again and open the sh students releases repository. In the top right corner you will see set me up option. Click on that. Then select deploy. Artifactory will show you the distribution management snippet that you need to add in your pom.xml. Copy this and inside your pom.xml go to bottom and paste it here and save it. Now run the mvn deploy command again. I'm not running mvn clean deploy intentionally because I want to show you that Maven will not clean the target folder here. Instead, it will directly generate the release jar file under the target directory and then attempt to deploy it to the Artifactory release local repo. But this deployment will fail and you will see an error. I will tell you why. Oh, well, it is failing because we have added two distribution management, but Maven allows only one. Let's remove this one, these two lines, and save it and run the command again. Okay, so now it is failing because of status code error 401 because we haven't added repository ID central in the settings.xml. So here we are using the repository ID as central, but we haven't added this in settings.xml file yet, and Maven needs that ID to authenticate and push the artifact. Now we need to add the repository ID central in the settings.xml under the server section. Exactly the same way we created the entry for the snapshot ID in our last session. So in your settings.xml, scroll to this server section and create a new server. So I have already copied it, and here change the ID to central, and the username is ownSCH only. Here in the password you will have to provide the token which you have generated for the ownSCH user. So I'm not going to show you the token here for security reasons. Once this is added, save the settings.xml file. Now rerun the command again. Now build is success. We can validate it in Artifactory. Go to JFrog Artifactory. Here under release we can see com sch students 001 release this time, and the jar and the pom artifacts being created with the maven metadata.xml file. And the same we can also validate in the virtual repository for release. So here also we can see com sch students, and then this release version, and all the respective artifacts are being uploaded. That's all for this session. If you found this helpful, please don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the channel. See you in the next session. Thank you for watching.